Hi everybody, I'm Dr. John Douillard and welcome to LifeSpa.com, where we prove the ancient medical wisdom of Ayurveda with modern science. And today I want to talk about the importance of vitamin D sufficiency during the winter months. We all know that vitamin D is the vitamin that we get from the sun. And as the sun goes into the southern hemisphere, we lose access to the UVB radiation that helps us make vitamin D. The UVB radiation is only 5% of the ultraviolet radiation that we have. 95% of it is what's called UVA radiation, and that is the radiation that stays here all year long and can give you skin cancer and sun damage and sunburn and all of that kind of stuff. And so unfortunately, the UVB radiation is a little harder for us to get. So we have to make an extra effort during the winter months to optimize our vitamin D. And one of the reasons why it's so important is for our immunity. And one of the most amazing studies that I remember reading was that they did a study with vitamin D and killer T cells, and they measured how much vitamin D, active vitamin D, was in the killer T cells for it to actually engage in an immune battle. And when it was only half full, it did not engage in an immune battle, the killer T cell. When it was 3/4 full of vitamin D, it did not engage in an immune battle. It only engaged in an immune battle when it was 100% full of vitamin D, suggesting that our immune system is activated by the sun. And if we don't have access to the sun, we dramatically lose our immune response. And this has been borne out in so many different studies. And there were studies done in the New England Journal of Medicine where they found that when people were in the ICU, their risk of dying and staying in the ICU so much longer was significantly increased when their vitamin D levels were low. One study showed that they had a 45% increased risk of death if they had low vitamin D compared to a 16% risk of death if their vitamin D level was sufficient once they went into the ICU. Another meta-analysis of all the different studies showed that vitamin D was linked to longer stays in the ICU, and other studies show that vitamin D deficiency directly linked to our morbidity, getting sick, and definitely linked to dying prematurely. So it's something that we really have to think about as we move into the winter, which is the time of the year where our immune system is so required. Getting back to some of the basics of vitamin D, because when the sun gets low in the sky, any geography, latitude north of Atlanta, Georgia in America, you're not going to get any UV radiation or enough UVB radiation to give you the vitamin D that you need. Anything south of that, you want to make sure that the UV index is 3 or greater. And in the article associated with this video, I give you links to a UV index finder where you can just type in your zip code. It tells you what the UV index is for the day, and you can say, oh gosh, I can get UVB radiation today if that UV index is high enough. It's a very general guide. It's a loose guide, but that's what the research suggests, is anything 3 and over in the UV index will give you UVB radiation. Always remember that the UVB radiation has to be right up in the middle of the sky to penetrate the atmosphere. It can't be morning or afternoon. It has to be right in midday. That includes summertime as well. So important. What's interesting is that we have this thing that UV radiation is bad for us. And it's true that if you get out in the sun and do too much of it, it can be a problem. But the UV radiation is part of the sun, and it's part of the infrared and the red and all the visual lights. All visual light spectrum is all providing a certain amount of benefit, but it's a matter of dose. If you overdose on the UV radiation side, particularly UVA radiation, you can have problems. But interestingly, studies show that UV radiation has been shown to treat psoriasis, vitiligo, atopic dermatitis. It increases our nitric oxide, which won the Nobel Prize in 1998, as the panacea molecule. It cures pretty much everything in your body. And in 1903, UVA radiation, the one that we put sunscreen on our body to protect ourselves against, the research on it won the Nobel Prize, finding that the UVA radiation was very antimicrobial. And that's why, if you remember back, you look at pictures of hospital beds on the balconies back in the old days, that was because in the early 1900s, the UV radiation won the Nobel Prize, or the research on it did, and therefore it became a thing to get more sun, and the sun would provide all kinds of benefits for us, particularly if we were deficient. And back in the old days, there wasn't a lot of big windows, and the idea of getting outside wasn't a thing for health. It was a thing for, you did it more naturally because you had to walk to places. It wasn't so easy to be kind of, cloistered inside all the time. But still, people still did get vitamin D deficiency on a regular basis, which is really, really sad. So a couple other things that vitamin D is so critical for is your blood sugar. Studies show that a decrease in vitamin D, it actually increases the risk of death of your beta cells in your pancreas, who are in charge of making insulin. So it's another kind of a factor. It regulates about 2,000 of our genes in our body. So if you're predisposed to a genetic issue because we have weak links in our genes, and we all do, right? Then then if your vitamin D levels are low, that allows those genetic expressions more likely to manifest and kind of rear their ugly head. So it's really important to be optimized with your vitamin D. And to get optimized with your vitamin D, you want to stay in the range which is optimal. And the normal range in vitamin D is between 30 to 100. So anywhere nanograms per milliliter, anywhere in that range, you're going to be normal. Now, studies do show that the high end of the normal range is significantly better. One study showed that if you're below 45, let's say you go to the doctor and they say you're 35, you're normal, you're fine. Well, they say below 45, the vitamin D acts like a vitamin, which means it's going to protect you from getting rickets. Well, you're not going to get rickets with a number of 30 or 40 or 45. But if it goes over 45, and the ideal range is said to be between 50 to 80, then the vitamin D starts acting like a hormone. It's a corticosteroid hormone, actually, not actually a vitamin. But it doesn't really act like a vitamin until it gets to that higher level of normal. And that's kind of what you want to shoot for. We're not asking you to be above the normal level, just the higher end between 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. Generally speaking, people can do that with about 4,000 IUs per day during the winter months. Sometimes they need less, sometimes they need more. And 1,000 or 2,000 of IUs a day during the summer months. Sometimes you don't need any, and sometimes you might need a little bit more. And that depends on a lot of factors, which is why you should get tested. Have your vitamin D levels tested in the fall and in the spring. And in the fall, after a whole summer, you should be at the highest high of the year. And in the spring, after a long winter, you should be at the lowest low of the year. And you want to make sure that how much sunlight you're getting during the summer months, how much supplementation you're taking during the winter gets you between that 50 to 80 nanogram per milliliter range. Does that make sense? If you don't have access to a good vitamin D test, we do have a home test kit. It's a lot easier to go to the doctor and get a test kit, but we do have one if you don't have access to that. It's really important to know, how well do I deliver vitamin D? Because you have to get it through your skin, then it goes to your liver, becomes what's called calcidiol, then it goes to your kidneys where it becomes calcitriol, and then it becomes active, and then it goes to every part of your body. And weirdly, the last tissue to get that vitamin D, even though it came in through your skin, is your skin, which is sometimes why our skin starts to age prematurely, because we don't have that enough robust amount of vitamin D to actually penetrate all the tissues, and sometimes your skin gets left out. So that's an important reason why to keep the numbers up as well. Studies show, there's been other studies on vitamin D, and I've written a complete and comprehensive article about all the science behind all the benefits, and go to lifespa.com, check it out. Read all the studies on brain health, attention deficit, inflammation. One study showed that with just 2,000 IUs per day, there was a 37% decreased risk in inflammation. Studies on longevity, mood, fatigue, sleep. This is like the sun, right? You take anything out of the sun and it's not going to thrive. So making sure we get enough sunlight during the summertime when we get the UVB, but also in the wintertime, because that's where we get the the infrared light. And the infrared light is the one that you can't see, but it penetrates deeply into your tissues and warms you up from the inside out. It activates the production of mitochondrial energy and keeps you healthy and vital from an energy productive side during the winter months, which is why if you walk at the elk and the cows out in the field, freezing cold, they're out there, they're getting the infrared light that's penetrating their skin, penetrating their fur, going deep into their tissue and warming them from the inside out. That's how they survive out there, because of the infrared light that's warming them from deep, deep inside, even into their bones. All right, you guys, so I hope that helps. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, like our channel, go to our website at lifespa.com, sign up for our newsletter, get this information, become part of our family, get all the information about the latest things that we're doing, and also check out our Ayurvedic store at lifespa.com. We have all of our organic herbs, skincare, courses, knowledge, over 1,000 articles about pretty much every health topic, combining the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda and modern science. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Hi, everybody. I just want to take a minute and tell you what we do here at LifeSpa.com. You know, I've been in practice now for 40 years, 38 of them have been practicing Ayurvedic medicine full-time. For the last 20 years, I've been writing articles and doing videos on the ancient medical wisdom of Ayurveda with the modern science. You know, if something's been around for 1,000 years, still practiced today, and you have modern science to prove it, boy, I really feel like that's something we should all be taking a look at. And that's what we do at lifespa.com, and all that information is for free. So you just go to lifespa.com and search in your health topic, and you'll get the information, the article that you need, hopefully that will help you. While you're there, check out our Ayurvedic store. You can get there through lifespa.com or go to store.lifespa.com. And there we have all of our organic Ayurvedic herbs, organic skincare line, more books, tapes, knowledge that we give you is all there at our store. All of our cleansing kits are there in our store. All of our herbs are whole herbs with the natural occurring microbiome, the way it came out of the soil. And that's critically important, because if I took the bugs out of you, you'd be completely different. We take the bugs away from a plant, like sterilizing and making an extract or spraying your food with pesticides, you lose significant benefit of that plant. And that's why we use the whole plant with the natural occurring microbiome. So check us out, learn more about what we're doing here at lifespa.com, and we'll see you again.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.